Voters across 5 states cast their ballots to help shape the future of Congress in primary elections on Tuesday. On the Republican side, one thing seems clear. Donald Trump is still kingmaker, at least when it comes to the primaries. In South Carolina, Congresswoman Nancy Mace used her Trump endorsement to fend off a challenger backed by former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Bad blood there. And in Nevada, Sam Brown won his Senate primary after a late nod from the former president. That sets up what might become the critical race for control of the Senate against Democratic incumbent Jackie Rosen in Nevada. But it is a shockingly close special election showing for Democrat Michael Kripchak in a blue-collar rural Ohio district that Trump carried by 29 points in 2022. That's really got people talking. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard. All right, Vaughn, let's talk about that special election, that surprise showing. Why was it such a surprise?
Right. Okay. Well, let's first start with the numbers here.
Okay.
This very congressional district, we should note that Joe Biden lost it to Donald Trump by 28.7 percentage points.
That's why we rounded up to 29.
Exactly. The difference this go around was about 10 percentage points. A significant difference, but also reality check. Just about 60,000 people in this congressional district voted in this special last night. Compare that to 280,000 in the November 22 general election. Now, Democrats are saying, look, but this is a sign that ultimately it's Democrats that are enthused. They saw legislative gains in Pennsylvania and Alabama. Of course, Tom Suozzi won the New York congressional district.
Tom Suozzi is a really good example
exactly.
Here in Long
Picked up
Island.
the Republican seat here. And so Democrats are saying, look, when the voters are having the opportunity in 2024 to vote, it's the Democrats that are turning out in greater numbers than Republicans.
On the subject of immigration, Tom Suozzi ran right after it. I mean, he said this immigration is a problem. The Democrats want to fix it. And he pointed to the legislation that got torpedoed in Congress. He didn't run away from that issue. What was this gentleman in Ohio's issue? How did he get so close?
Number one, he's a veteran, was working in a local restaurant. And he is, when we're talking about candidate quality, right, somebody's story, and especially somebody that connects with the community, is going to be key here. And so I think that that's where you see Democrats here. They have put focus and attention. And at the same time, that's why I think in Nevada, if I may turn it,
good, I was going to go there.
Sam Brown, the Republican nominee for the Senate there, he's a candidate who has a Purple Star. A Purple Heart, excuse me. He was injured in 2008 while serving the country in the Army, was injured in a roadside bomb in Afghanistan severely. And look, Nevada, in the 2022 Senate race there, Republicans lost by just about 7,000 votes. In this go-around,
but Jackie Rosen, I mean, polling is hard in Nevada, as we all know, and John Ralston reminded us of this the other day. But Jackie Rosen has been doing pretty well. I mean, she's polling ahead of Joe Biden in Nevada.
Right. And look, this is where Democrats are optimistic about their chances in some of these key states because they have these incumbents that are running, from Sherrod Brown in Ohio to Jon Tester in Montana, Jackie Rosen in Nevada here. These are what you could say quality candidates, and especially when you're looking at like issues like abortion. Right. You have Sam Brown here, whose wife has come publicly came out and talked to our Natasha Korecki about having an abortion before they had a relationship together. He was somebody who had at one point been open to a federal abortion ban, now says that he's opposed to it. But look, Democrats here are going to utilize that. They call him a MAGA extremist. And last night, just before the polls closed in Nevada, he put a video out in which he was talking directly to his iPhone, in which he was calling the New York trial against Donald Trump a sham trial, because there were some folks that were questioning whether he was sort of playing footsie with Donald Trump and trying to play the middle lane. And he made it clear that he is a supporter of Donald Trump and he believes the trial. And this is the part of the Republican candidates in 2024. You can't really run away from Donald Trump.
I have to get to Cornell, but I want to ask one more question about Nancy Mace. This was spicy because Kevin McCarthy endorsed her opponent. Kevin McCarthy does not like Nancy Mace.
No.
At all.
No.
What was the backstory there?
Well, number one, Nancy Mace, after January 6th, went out and suggested that, the party should move on beyond Donald Trump.
She did so on our air. I was speaking to her. It was an interview with me and Chuck and Andrea.
Right. And yet Donald Trump holds the power of the Republican base. And she, in the last 2 years, has gone running back to him. And look,
she said that's what her voters wanted. And she's got to do what her voters want.
And she beat the McCarthy-backed candidate by 30 percentage points.
And McCarthy's mad because she voted to oust him.
Oust him. Matt Gaetz is next. Matt Gaetz is going to likely win. Bob Good in Virginia. He has a primary against a McCarthy-backed candidate next week. We'll see how that goes. Eli Crane in Arizona. So McCarthy is 0-1 so far, but he's got a couple more to go.
Got it. All right. Vaughn, thank you so much. Joining us now, Democratic pollster and MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher. What do you want to add to that conversation, Cornell?
I want to add to that conversation. Well, great conversation, first of all. But I think it's really interesting. But as a political person, you never want to see, if you're a Republican or Democrat, all this money that Republicans are spending going after each other, right? Democrats sit back and go, fantastic, right? Spend all this money, spend all this resources, all this time fighting each other in primaries, and that's resources that aren't going to be there for them in the general election to take on Democrats.
All right. So when you look at that Ohio race in particular, the strong showing from the Democratic opponent, Kipchak, do you see that as precedent for November? Or do you see, like Vaughn mentioned, that it's a special election, it's a very small turnout, and it can't be indicative of what might be to come?
Yeah, I mean, two things. One is we often put too much weight and spin in what happens in primaries and special elections. That said, Katie, I'm gonna lean in and put a lot in this special election. One of the things is, one reason I'm going to do that is because you do see, right, this is not one data point. This is actually a continuum of data along the same pathway, and that is you do see Democrats outperforming expectations from going back the last three elections, and even the special elections that have happened, and the off year elections and the midterm elections. You've seen Democrats outperform expectations time and time again, and I think this is yet another data point in that continuum that sort of goes to reinforce that point that Democrats, despite all the negative narrative about how horrible and poorly Democrats are doing, at election times, Democrats have been outperforming expectations.
But I think there's an open question about whether that enthusiasm extends all the way up the ticket. I mean, we've seen in polling that the Democratic senators in various states are polling well above what President Biden is polling. Do you see that as just voters saying, I don't like him, but I'm still going to vote for him? Or is there a real issue there? I
think you'd rather be Biden than Trump. And in that instance, because here is why, and even going back to the sort of conversation about Nevada, and as someone who polled there in 2008 for the Obama campaign, it is a really difficult state to poll in and nail it. But what you do see is, from the standpoint of issues, right? If you look at the issues, and that goes even to that what you were talking about, that special election there in New York. If you look at where the voters are on the issues, I'd much rather be a Democrat, both challenger or an incumbent, with a record on the issues, right? Other than the issue of immigration, which I would argue, Katie, that they bungled and gave Democrats an opening to. From an issue standpoint, Senate Democrats are where the vast majority of voters are. And again, you have double haters, but in the end, is Donald Trump closer to where the voters in these battleground districts are from an issue standpoint, or is Joe Biden closer to the voters in these districts and these states where the voters are on key issues? And in the end, are they going to break toward the candidate that's closer to them on key issues, despite the fact that they're not in love with either one of them? I think there's a lot of history in campaigns and politics in this country that says when they're not in love with either candidate, they tend to break towards the candidate that's more in line with them on the issues.
When you don't have a crystal ball, get yourself Cornell Belcher. Next best thing. Thank you, sir.